Hello, everyone. I am Israel Luna. Welcome to a new show starting off season 2. And I apologize for my voice. I think I had a slight case of laryngitis, and this is the most that my voice has been able to speak in like for the last week because it got really bad. But enough about my voice. I have a great panel of guests today to start off season 2 with a bang. I'm going to have all of them introduce themselves, starting right here to my left.
Hello, I'm Warren.
Hello, I'm Brandy Marsky, and I'm a writer and drag artist.
And I'm Jeremy Wilkinson with Empty Theater Productions.
Yeah. So guys, we have to unfortunately talk about a kind of a bummer subject, which is what just happened in Florida. It happened at the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. And I guess they've reported now it's 17 dead, 15 injured. And when I saw that, I was getting some 24-hour like truck tacos with a friend of mine for Valentine's Day, and there we are. And then I see it on the screen, and I just shook my head, and I thought, and this is bad that I thought this, but the first thing I thought was, is this going to change anything? Is there hope? And I wanted to get your take. Is there? What's going on?
When was Columbine? That's what, more than 20 years now?
Has it been that long?
It's been that long.
God.
And then at that time, everyone was like, protesting and things need to change, And then another school shooting, and then another.
I saw this really great meme, and it starts off like, it's not really a meme, but it's like a GIF. I don't know what you would call it. Anyways, it says, school shooting, something here, thoughts and prayers, everybody's in an uproar, and then we forget and it happens again. So it's like this constant cycle that keeps happening. And I think that until people want to step outside of this whole thoughts and prayers and really want to talk about the issues, then I think it's just going to keep happening.
I especially feel that way because that's really all it's been, is it repeating itself, because this is the 4th, 5th school shooting already this year.
I think it's more than that. I think it's like 16.
18?
Oh.
Yeah, 16,
Yeah, it's
17.
18.
Yeah.
Oh, dang. I did not know it was that much.
And that's just from the beginning of January. Like, that's how many days that we've pretty much gone through in February. So if you think about it in that perspective, it's like a shooting a day in February.
And I think you're right about that one pattern thing, because I remember when the Pulse shooting happened, because it finally hit our community. Everyone was saying, oh yeah, well now that, we're not going to let this, just fade away. We're going to really do something about, and then the same thing over again. And I thought, oh my gosh. So what I did, and this was a couple of months ago, I had a show talking about gun control, and yeah, it's a big problem because I know very little about guns. So I just came in, I wanted the perspective of not knowing anything about how to purchase one
Yeah, I don't
or
either.
anything like that. And it was just a really interesting perspective because one of our guests, who was our producer for today, Richard, I hope you don't mind me bringing you up. He came with a really great perspective. The unfortunate thing about it is not everyone has a sane mind like Richard did. I can understand why he would want a large number of guns and certain guns because he is a responsible person. Unfortunately, if you let him pass, then you have to let all these other crazies pass. So then it's like, well, how do you handle that?
Well, first off, I think there needs to be some kind of I think there needs to be a better system of applying and getting guns. If it's harder for a female to get an abortion, and there's all these issues and surrounding a female wanting to get an abortion, but it's easier to buy a gun, then we have a problem.
Exactly.
Well, it's like the shooter, Nicholas Cruz, the 19-year-old that did the shooting down in Florida. It was purchased legally.
Right.
All his guns were purchased legally.
Absolutely. And you also bring up another point. When they're talking about the shooting, should we say his name? Because and give a name to the face and even show his face. I'm not exactly sure, because what if he did this and one small reason he did it was to be infamous and for everyone to know his name?
It's an interesting point.
That is an interesting point.
That's an interesting perspective.
Have they even released, any of why he did or anything like that, or has he been silent?
No.
He was part of a white supremacist group, wasn't he?
Yeah, I read that, and then I also read a thing where he was a former student there, and
He was expelled from the school.
the teachers labeled him as unfit for other students, and
Yeah.
he was like a threat
Yeah.
to them and stuff.
Yeah, and he had posted on, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. And then also, along that same lines, one of his friends, I think it was one of his friends, actually reported him to the FBI.
Yes, that's what I was about to
Oh,
say.
okay.
He found it on Twitter, wasn't it?
Well, no,
Yeah.
it was there was a gentleman in Mississippi that actually had a YouTube post, and it was a Nicholas Cruz that commented on the post, and the guy saw it, and he contacted the FBI.
Okay.
FBI came and talked to him, but after that, he didn't know anything that
Well,
happened afterwards.
according to the FBI said that they followed up on it, but they could never find the person who posted it, although the name that was posting is the exact same name as the person who ended up killing all of these people. So did they really do it, or did they just kind of ignore it? I don't know, but it sounds a little shady to me, especially in this age of social media. And what I was going to say also, in speaking about social media, is one of the things that I found that was, I think, a positive thing was with this Florida shooting that just happened. A lot of the students had their cell phones on, and they were capturing everything as they were hiding. And as crazy as it may seem, where you're running for your life and you turn on your phone, it's so informative for the authorities. It's so informative for us to see. For evidence purposes, not for entertainment purposes.
Well,
or anything like
Action News started during the Vietnam War, and there's actually cameras. That was the first time that cameras were in, part of a war, and that's when we got the first actual, the people at home could see what's going on, and we still didn't get, a quarter of what was going on because it was still censored, on a lot of stuff. But this is a good thing, maybe it will open people's eyes to see, because that's a big thing. It's not going to happen to me.
Right.
Is what everybody thinks. It's not going to happen to me.
And, the town that it happened in, statistics wise, was the safest city in the United States.
Really?
My wife and I were
like
just talking about it last night. You don't, people think, guns in the inner cities. You don't have shootings in inner cities. It's your suburban, upper middle class neighborhoods that this is happening in.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, it has a lot to do with, throw the word bullying out there.
Yeah.
Anyone that's different, they become secluded because, it's always, you don't want to be attached to a certain thing.
Mm-hmm.
And when these instances come, you got a certain individual that's a loner.
Right.
And that happens to be, most of these, school shootings, that's what they are.
And they're also easily influenced.
Yes.
Yeah.
And when you have someone, speaking of, the influence and the social media, then you have someone, let's just say like Logan Paul, who's the YouTube star, meaning not a star at all, honestly. That I got that from Saturday Night Live, where someone says, "Oh, who are you? Oh, I'm internet famous." And what does that mean? Not famous at all. But his name is Logan Paul. He has 15 million subscribers on YouTube. He's the guy that did that video of the suicide. He went to a suicide place in was
Japan.
it Japan?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so a lot of people like had this big uproar about him showing that on his YouTube site. Well, they sort of gave him they have a what is it called? Like a
Three strikes you're out.
3 strikes you're out rule. So that was one, and he apologized, and it was this whole big media hubbub, right? And he felt bad, and he apologized for it, saying it was inappropriate. And then here lately, like within the last week, he has tweeted and said that he is going to be swallowing 1 Tide Pod per retweet. So he's already encouraging this stupid trend going on that I hope goes away really fast. And then he also tasered a dead rat. Now, people were like protesting and saying, why is he still on YouTube? Well, because we're all about, it's you can express how stupid and idiotic you can be. That's okay. But they did say now, I don't think it was for the Tide Pod comment, but I think for tasering the dead rat, now he has 2 strikes. Now, what they have done during these 2 strikes is they have punished him by taking off ad space from his channel, which means his paychecks are on pause. So I think now maybe that'll make him pay attention because, money says a lot when you take it away.
I don't really think it's going to change anything, honestly, because with YouTubers especially, their whole income is based off how long people are on their channel, how many followers they have, how many likes their videos get and stuff. And so the more stupid acts they do, the more views they're going to get, the more people they have watching them, the more income they're going to start getting. So it's just creating this kind of chaos of that's how you get the most likes, that's how you get the most money, is by doing stupid stuff.
And it's not just the people, it's the people that are watching. I mean, I grew up I'm the generation of Jackass, and I loved that show. Like I love Jackass, but I think there's a difference between it being contained and almost scripted as opposed to just this individualization of a recluse or somebody who may have like mental issues. But at the same time, why are these people following him? Like, what are these people getting out of seeing this?
Well, I think they
idiot?
live vicariously through these other people, and I think you're right. They have to do outrageous things to keep those followers or keep the followers growing as well. And then what I think happens is it turns into this sort of spiral. I don't know if it would be necessarily a downward spiral, but a spiral of now I have to top my last video. I have to do something a little more outrageous. And then it just goes a little more and more. And in the meantime, they're collecting those checks. They're getting more subscribers, and they're getting paid. I mean, that's the reality of the social media world.
This is why stupid people shouldn't have access to the internet.
But what's sad is the moral issue doesn't matter to anyone of like YouTube or anybody. It's all about how much money they're making. And if this person's doing idiotic things and it's inspiring other people to do equally stupid things, but they're getting a lot of money to where they can pay this person a lot of money, everyone is okay with that.
Well, as far as I say it goes back to the parents. You have to know what your kids are watching. If you're not there and you have no clue what's going on, then you're making them susceptible to this kind of stuff. You're letting someone else influence them. I got 2 teenage boys, and they watch all this stuff on YouTube, but we tell them all the time, don't do that. Don't do that.
Oh, don't
That's
get me started on
stupid.
that. 'Cause we're going to talk about that. We have to take a break, and because I want to continue this, because I have a theory on this. And guys, I promise you that the show is going to get a little lighter, but we do have to take a break. But don't go anywhere. When we come back, we're going to be talking about another wonderful subject, the Me Too movement. We'll be right back. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Don't Panic. We were discussing about the parents' role in these crazy kids doing just ridiculous things. And you said that that's what it came down to, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, just pay attention to what your kids are doing. You know, and like I said, if they're watching that kind of stuff, just say, don't do it. You can watch it, but don't do that stupid stuff.
Now, when it comes to the Tide Pod challenge, I got to say, and it might make me sound racist, and maybe I am a little bit, but it's the white kids. It's the white kids. And I have a theory on this. I do. There are a lot of parents, and it's a cultural thing. It's not necessarily a skin color thing. It's just a cultural thing where they try to, do y'all know the phrase helicopter parents, where you're just like hovering over them, making sure they don't do anything wrong. You have to let them go and do whatever and let them learn for themselves, because they know they're human beings built with some street smarts, let's hope. But when you have hovering parents, helicopter parents, and then the kid gets to the age where they don't necessarily have to really pay attention and they start getting a mind of their own about 13 years old, they're going to lash out and they're going to go crazy because they've been deprived of so many things. That's what I think. In Mexican families, brown families, we're like, Mom, we want to go outside. Go, just go.
Yeah.
Go ride your bike. Go over there. What? You got hurt? Is there blood? Okay, well then shut up. You know, that's how they are, and that's how we were raised.
Yeah.
And I think it's a culture thing. So from the white folks on the panel, do you agree? Am I a terrible person?
No, that's how I grew up. You know, the sun came up and I was outside, and the sun started going down, and it's time to go in. My two older kids, my daughter, she was always in sports and that kind of stuff, so she never, that was never a factor. My youngest is the one that, he's kind of that nature. He sun's out and he's outside playing. We got him a cell phone just so we can know. Unfortunately, there's other people out there that are
But have you noticed that it's like Caucasian kids that started, and even like with the skateboarding where they like hit themselves and like break their teeth and break their nose, and jumping and doing somersaults off of a trash can, and then they land and it's getting 12 million views on YouTube.
But I also think that it's more than just what you were saying about this, the rules, and all of a sudden they want to go out. I think we also have to start instilling in our kids that fame isn't the end all be all.
Yes.
I think they're so inundated, and our youth is so inundated.
15 minutes.
Everybody wants this 15 minutes. You're thrust with the Kardashians. You have all this, reality is the new entrance into fame, and fame is the way to get out, and money. And so we need to start teaching and reteaching the value of craft, and the value of art, and the value of reading and writing, and these talent-based things that don't necessarily require you to be a fucking idiot on TV for views.
But this is the tough part. The reality is you can have a sex tape leak like a Kardashian and now be a billionaire.
But the onus is also on the people who are making them famous. It's like Banks, says, stop making stupid people famous. Yeah. We have control. Fame and celebrity is a two-way street. It's the person and then the people who bring that.
So then, like Warren, okay, so you just turned 19. So you are a part of this younger social media generation. What do you have to say about... I'm 22.
I mean, it definitely has a lot to do with the people that we put in the spotlight, because like you said, the Kardashians and like Logan Paul, we have stupid people that are being sponsored, and we have people who are giving kids like, okay, you can go have sex, record it, and then post it on the internet, and then you could become famous. Like, that's not, for me, that's not what I want my kids to grow up looking at. Like, I want my kids to grow up looking at positive figures, positive people who are like actually creating images for a new generation. And I don't want them looking at like Snapchat, for instance. I go on Snapchat all the time, and all their stories are about what's the next scandal, what's the next stupid thing people are doing, who's cheating on who. Like, why would you want to have that on such a publicized environment that we have nowadays with technology? And it's kind of having an effect on like younger generations for sure, because that's what they're seeing every day.
Well, I think that's a great segue to the Me Too movement that I want to discuss is, excuse me, now I'm starting to see the hashtag Me Too Much. And I'm wondering, is it too much? Because here, I don't know if you've seen the video of Ashley Judd at the airport. We actually have a short clip of it that we'll cut to, and then we'll discuss it. Yeah, go ahead and play that, Richard.
Hi, I'm Ashley Judd, and I'm going to do a little live post from the airport. I'm traveling today, and this is the kind of thing to me that happens, which I categorize as everyday sexism. I was coming through security, and a guy said, "Hey, sweetheart," and I said, "I'm not your sweetheart, I am your client." So I was already setting a boundary. And then when I was setting my things out, he said, "Hey, nice dress." I didn't hear him saying anything about the attire of any of the other folks. And I was speaking with one of his colleagues. She was saying, "Do you have on high-heeled shoes?" Whatever. And guess what happened next? He touched me. I didn't see him touch anybody else. And I turned around and I said, "That was unnecessary." And then for good measure, he just said one more time, "Have a good day, sweetheart." So I have plenty of time. I'm really early for my flight, and I caught my breath and I said my prayers. And my intention is to put principles above personalities. I'm not here to be controversial. I'm not here to be combative. But I asked for a manager, and I introduced myself, and I shook his hand, and I asked for his name, and I explained the situation. And I also explained that there were lots of other people who saw it.
Yeah, so she was just pretty much talking about going to the airport, and the guy working there before she goes through the security, he says, "Good morning, sweetheart." And she said, "I'm not your sweetheart. I'm your customer, or I'm your client," or something like that. And then, they talked about her heels and stuff. So when I saw the video, I was like, well, that's just how some people talk. And I think it was like an older gentleman. So, "Hi, sweetheart." And now she's going on social media, putting this video out and complaining about that. And I'm thinking, this is getting a little scary.
But I think you also have to remember, it's not about how you feel about it. It's about how she feels about it, because you're not a female. And so you don't really understand.
I'm a black woman. How dare you?
Not on the outside.
Okay,
People don't
okay.
see that when they first see you.
Gotcha,
Once
okay.
they get to know you, then of course. But
Got it.
I think, not being presented as female, like you aren't used to having that kind of interaction with heterosexual men. Like I think I've said this before on the show. Like, I will literally go and sit in front of my wife's well and have straight men, hit on me and touch me or grab my butt. And of course, they get kicked out or whatever, but it's even in a safe space of gayness, that is my family, that is my gente, it is still an issue. And so I think it's not necessarily how you or I feel about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do I feel that that's a little excessive? I sure do. Like, I call everybody sweetheart. I touch everybody. I mean, it's my personality. It's who I am. But it's not, at the end, it's not how I feel about it. It's how she feels about it.
Well, because I see it as, let's just say I'm with my grandparents, and I'm with let's just say a black friend. And my grandmother or grandfather says, "Oh, that your colored friend, blah 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 blah," because that was their generation. Mm-hmm. And then my friend gets immediately offended and like has to have a speech to the room, and it's like they didn't mean anything by it, and maybe it's outdated and a little archaic, but sort of understand where they're coming from is what I was hoping to see from this. But I don't know.
Yeah, that's how my grandfather was. That's how he talked to people. He would always I wouldn't say necessarily flirt, but he would kind of come off flirtatious, because that's just how his generation was. That's how they were brought up to talk to women like that. And I don't necessarily think it is a bad thing. Like, I think it comes from a good area, and I don't necessarily think it's bad. And when people are confronted with that, with, of course, the older generation, you kind of have to think about it like that's how you take it today can be different about how they're presenting it, especially how you're going back to it matters about how she feels about it. That when you talk about it like that, then it really comes down to then what even is sexual harassment if it's different from every different person. Because for one person, they could be totally fine with guys touching them or hugging them or whatever else they're going to do, and then one other person, a guy could come up and shake their hand and they'd automatically be offended by it.
Well, a perfect example is, the Olympics are going on right now, and gold medal winner Shaun White.
Well, he's an asshole.
Okay. He might be.
He's a prick.
He might be. And so he won, and they were interviewing him and talking to him about, how he felt about the win. And then someone brought up, well, there's this sexual allegation against you from a woman named Lena.
It wasn't an allegation. It was actually true.
Really?
Yeah, like they settled out of court. Like it actually happened. Like they've settled out of court. Like it was money involved. Like yeah.
Well, these were her claims. She said that she had been sexually harassed by him for 2 years, and he sent her sexually explicit photos, and then forced her to watch sexually disturbing videos. And this phrase I didn't understand. Help me understand. Enforced authoritarian management style.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, I didn't know that. So he was her employer. Okay, and so yeah, that's what she said. Now,
Can't you quit?
well, yeah, but that's a part of the argument is should she have
She
to?
shouldn't have to though.
Right.
Like your employee shouldn't be doing.
I understand that.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, he shouldn't be doing that, but you have the choice at any time to leave.
Yeah, but you don't know what her situation was.
I
Maybe she had
understand.
3 kids. Maybe that was the job that she needed at the time. Like you can't expect the onus isn't on the female. Period. End of conversation.
Yeah.
Done.
I don't think that's
And-
what it should come down to is, like, that's just not something that should be acceptable in a working environment with a male and a
And I get
female.
what you're saying.
But we're living in the real world. I mean, I understand that, but you got 1 or 2 choices to stay or leave.
Yeah, but that's a privileged notion.
I understand.
That's a white male privilege notion. Sorry.
I,